You're welcome back. This is NewsFile, it's your most authoritative news analysis platform, and here on NewsFile we put Ghana first. Now, I need just 2 minutes or a minute of a comment from you each. Then we move on to about a similar time to look at the posturing of the NDC. You have heard Elvis Afriankra. You may have heard the party's youth leader earlier. You may have heard Sami Gyampo also now. You know, as if we were in a state that there was no security in charge. So, first, do you say anything should be done to her by the president, and why? Well, I gave the Esla example. She was battered in. Is it a Google somewhere in there? She was battered, and she said, imagine she had a gun on her at the time, a licensed one. Who are you to say that she shouldn't have used it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I think before I answer that question, let me clearly make this point that my earlier submission, the expression that I used, that anyone who has his or her political head properly screwed on would condemn the act that took place. I use that expression not to insult anybody, but to make the point that anybody who has a fair appreciation of the norms of politics will condemn. And so, if people felt,
I think you can disagree with the other views.
Yeah, I mean,
without the use of, if you have your political head properly screwed on.
Well, so I mean, I take that as a comment, and if anyone felt offended by that, I withdraw that and apologize. But coming back to your question, I think the police has a good opportunity now, using this case, to rebuild the trust deficit that we have in them. Let there be a solid investigation into the matter first. I mean, you are asking whether we should go with the call that the president should sack her or not. I mean, regardless of my strong views against what happened, I think that let us approach the matter with some amount of trepidation. Let us be cautious. Let's allow the police to do some investigation, hoping that they will use this opportunity to rebuild the public trust deficit in them. Now, once the investigations are over, we'll be able to know what.
So once we say that, let's just add this and get the sense of how you guys feel about it. The NDC, you heard Elvis Afriankra, you may have heard other members of the NDC. They're simply asking their members to be ready to do what they call self-defense. And some actually use words like they should pick anything, you know, they find at their disposal to reply people who try to harm them because the police is being lethargic, is being inactive. Let's listen to this one.
Comrades who are listening to us this afternoon, do not sit aloof and allow these cowards and criminals to beat you, maim you, and even kill you. You have a right to defend yourselves. Mobilize yourself. Come together. Whatever you can get, you can get to defend yourself against harm, against death, do so. Call on us anytime you need any support, and we will stand by you every step of the way to make sure that we resist this oppressive rule, this rule of terror and tyranny we are all being subjected to. And we know we shall prevail at the end of the day.
There was an addition, a warning to police or security officers who, okay, let's listen to that one too. Okay, there was an addition, a warning to police and other security officers that they see or feel are simply not being professional, but, you know, not being professional, that if the NDC comes to power, they should, that would be the end of their profession.
Well, there's no law that prevents us from self-defense, especially when you are being attacked. And so if he's calling on people to defend themselves when they feel they are being maimed and all that. Naturally, we have the instincts to defend ourselves and all that, but I'm not too comfortable with the way and manner he's gone about it, because it looks as if that you are encouraging people to be taking the law into their own hands. We may have trust deficit in the police, but I think we should find appropriate ways of going about situations like this so that we do not appear to be inciting people to be taking the law into their own hands. As for the warning he sounded to the police, I think, to be fair and to be honest and to be blunt, he spoke what is in the mind of every politician in opposition. I mean, just that being a young person, he was influenced by youthful exuberance to say the kinds of things that is unsaid, but which I know that when they get into power, they will do. And I've, right from the word go, indicated that we must rethink the way and manner we have politicized our police, service, because it is an open secret that, look, every regime that comes into power would want to do something to the police headship and all that, and in that manner you politicize it. And so, while he said it, it is unfortunate that we are trying to bastardize and politicize, such credible institutions that are supposed to ensure that we have some law and order. And I think it's something that is regrettable. Yeah.
All right. Yes, Kweku, what do you say?
This political talk. This politics, they all do it.
The Catholic Bishops' Conference is concerned. The Christian Council is concerned. The National Peace Council is concerned that all of these things happening and the pronouncements and the posture of the police too, like you said last week, they don't seem to be doing what they must do to give us a sense of safety ahead of December 20.
I was
December.
being specific to the some agency pronouncement about we are ready to resist the fight and all that. This is not the first time I'm hearing such things from the political elements. All my life, I've heard it over and over. Most times it's just cowardly, ugly noises. They don't have the capacity to effect anything that they say. The other side about the caution or the warning.
Did you say they don't have the capacity to effect anything? At least we have the recent example of Ayawaso that we have.
No.
Ayawaso were gone.
The Ayawaso, see, let's be honest. The elements that went there were state elements, state actors.
Right. So maybe the more proper examples would be the before Ayawaso, the other incidents that we had. We
had Chiriponi, Atiwa, Ekwetia, and all that. Even Chiriponi was a state actor. Was a member of the national security who was doing the shooting, and we never investigated or dealt with it. I'm talking here of a political communication officer making the noise he's making. He doesn't have the capacity to effect any action. And that's not where my problem is, because see, look, I don't want to sound hypocritical. Across the political divide in this country, I've heard these things over and over again, okay? So that's not what I'm dealing with, and that's why I said that's politics. The other aspect.
But doesn't this promote the situation we saw where a young man was killed?
Yeah, but even then, I made that submission here last week. Subsequently, I'm being told that it was just a tragic coincidence of the young man's presence being there. There are people disputing as to whether it was politically motivated. But it means the police ought to investigate. Murder is murder. Whether it has political correlation or criminal correlation is not the point for me. Murder is murder. If the police investigate and that
proceed to the other aspect you hinted
was not politically motivated, there still must be sanctions. But the other aspect is the aspect about threatening or warning the police. Some policemen or military men relative to their security of tenure, and that the very day, as in the most unlikely situation, this is where my bias is, Akufo-Addo loses the next election, the very next day, these police people will also lose their jobs. You don't speak that way. First of all, there are procedures. There's a due process to deal with police, a recalcitrant or errant police people. So you stand on a platform and you make this kind of statement, it's a reflection of your level of understanding.
There's due process, but we also know that the politicians can use process that is not due process and deal with you.
Yeah, but you are saying that the very next day, the day the president exists, the people also exist. That's complete misunderstanding of how the process works. That's right. The point I'm making. So it's like an infantile outburst that is avoidable and inexcusable. It has collateral damage for your own political platform. These are things that you don't see. Okay? That place, I'll put some value on it and analyze it. The earlier one, my brother, forget it. They all say so, and they defend it. You understand? And I've heard it so many times that I don't let it worry me. Most times, many of them have no capacity. I understand. You see, I have a philosophy, you know. I prefer ugly noises to the culture of silence, even though I know we should strive for responsible speech, the middle line. But honestly, you cannot actually legislate against these kind of noises. Okay?
When Samir Wuku and others like him suggested that their party people can pick mortar and pestle, among other things, we came down heavy on them.
It's the same thing I was talking about. It was political talk. We criticized them. Samir Gyampo is being criticized left, right, center. That's fine. Let that proceed. Let that go on. That's all I was saying.
Okay.
I'm placing more premium on the second leg.
All right.
That's where my emphasis is. And I'm saying that clearly shows that he doesn't even understand the dynamics of governance and how police administration and things works. You can't do that. Look, we've had this history of police people being dismissed left, right. Some have gone to court and won.
Yeah.
You know that? Judgment debt and all that came up. So for a communication officer of the major opposition party to go in that direction, if I were President Mahama, I mean the flag bearer, I'll call him and caution him, okay? Even perhaps reprimand him. Now let's talk about the Hawa thing in terms of resignation. Look, resignation is more or less voluntary, and she can exercise that option on her own at this material moment. Dismissal or suspension, relative to what the president must do, the president could either exercise the discretion of suspending or dismissal. But I think it to be a bit prejudicial at this stage when the police investigations are ongoing. The president, being a lawyer and all that, may want to wait. Okay? As for voluntary resignations, we've had a lot in our history, even in this government. We've had some.
All right.
Okay? So that's the way to put it.
Okay.
You know, and the police people, I want to encourage them like I did last week. Let's grow a critical mass of policemen like Awuni, the late, who in a similar registration encounter, it is the same during the Hustler thing, had an encounter with a sitting MP who was a former minister. Indeed, was able even to take him to the police station and put him behind a counter. Okay, and went through all that. He was threatened, if you remember, on your station. I have the publications
He suffered a lot for that after.
That he should be transferred and all that. He courageously spoke to your station. The publication here. No, and stood his ground. It's not easy, I know. Sometimes it's like you have been an idealistic person. But please, together with civil society, let's grow a critical mass of strong-willed, hardcore professional police men and women as part and parcel of deepening the democratic exercise that we've embarked on. We embarked on since.
You see, but how do you build? How do you do that if you have the police head appointed by the president?
No.
I mean, it's been difficult.
Of course, if you go into the Constitutional Review Commission report and things, there were findings, all these were examined. You are talking of the long term. I'm saying that and the institutional structural transformation. That is admitted. But before then, I only acted.
So sometimes it doesn't seem like Obama's medicine is the best for us. We need strong men and not strong institutions. It's actually a strong man that build a strong institution.
A dynamic combination of
Yes. So, Professor Kwesiani, what do you say? Should there be some action politically, administratively on the part of the president and the party? Obviously, we have heard the party. They say the calls are pointless. Should the president be doing anything to the Special Development Initiatives Minister? And what do you say to the NDC's posturing too? Is that how to build a nation?
Well, certainly not. Let me start with the NDC's posturing. I mean, I think it's most unfortunate and rather in poor taste. But across board, there's a certain a deficit in political leadership that people are not willing very quickly to accept and to apologize or to step aside when they do things that are met with public opprobrium. You know, you cannot, knowing where the experience with Rwanda, and because politics is an emotive business, when you use words of don't stand aloof, of cowards and criminals, your right to defend yourself, which is true, I'm not so optimistic as Kweku does that we can just dismiss this out of hand. You know, when you incite people to arm themselves and to undertake violent acts, I think it needs to be taken quite seriously. He may not have the convening capacity to bring people together and then lead them. But out there in the chop bars and the beer bars and the palm wine spots, people misconstrue these statements. I think we need to take it seriously. The general posturing from the leadership of the NDC, I mean, when this case happened, I think Elvis Free Yankra and I did a program with
Evans Mensah.
Yes, Evans Mensah. And I think he was more measured that evening. Subsequently, I think one or two other statements have gone overboard, and therefore the concern by the institutions and organizations that you mentioned. You know, political leadership, and when you are vested with authority by the president and people look up to you, the state, because immediately you become a minister, the expectation is that whilst you take care of your party business, you're actually working for the generality of the state and the citizenry.
That's right.
That when you do things that are found to be distasteful, that you do what is respectful, and then you step aside, so that if and when the official investigations are completed and you have been absolved, then His Excellency may reconsider to appoint you. I see. But to just say, and I think her political advisor or something said, she's not moving an inch. I mean, there's a certain disrespectfulness to the general populace about the concerns that have been expressed. And this comes back to the earlier point. Did she do this act herself? Were there multiple shots? Or she decided to use her position to cover other people in the hope that, being a minister, that there could be some elite consensus and agreement that will get her off the hook. The insider information, I like I suggested to you earlier, is that she actually didn't do this. She was covering for someone else who didn't have the license. I mean, the interesting point, Samson, is the particular individual and her relationship to that particular individual. That is even what makes it more interesting. Okay. But we will leave it there as it is. But let's begin to build a political culture. And I think we alluded to this tangentially with respect to the police service. Yeah, but immediately, the EC's warning is the way to go. The EC is warning the politicians not to go there and resolve any issues. Yeah. Will they abide by it? Can the EC even, implement that? No. No, the politicians have signed a code of conduct. Yes. They've signed a roadmap. And this is not the first time. And okay. We have lost the... and the Kudalo, they signed the same thing. They've signed a roadmap. Yeah. They've signed the code of conduct. So the real question is, how do we elicit compliance from the political class when they voluntarily sign on to documents with shared principles and shared values, that would propel this country into creating a professional class that Kweku is looking for with respect to the police.
All right.
I think that's across all institutions.
Thank you very much, Professor Kwesienin. And Dr. Theo Champong, what would you say of the posturing of the NDC, and whether you have already suggested that something should be done to her? Perhaps she should be asked to leave the office. But again, like Professor Gyampo has suggested earlier, these people have representatives at the various centers, and yet they feel they must be there themselves. The EC's call, how do we implement that?
Okay, thank you. So just a quick clarification. So what I said earlier was that the decision for her to leave office is subject to proper investigations. But in the short term, what she should do is actually step aside whilst investigations are being carried out. And that must be also swift as well from the security services. Coming back to the NDC and the point, I think fundamentally, we probably would all agree that we all have a right to defend ourselves. And that's something that is guaranteed to us, I think, even, via the Constitution. However, such warmongering statement with, words, I just have a few here, like, unscrupulous security officials, pliant agents of violence against innocent citizens, etc. Stuff like that, we must all actually condemn. And why we must do that? Because, you see, any threat against the security services and against, the very institutions that are meant to protect us all fits into this whole politicization agenda. And you see that consistently what we end up doing is bastardizing institutions, bastardizing the individuals that run these institutions. And over time, we all collectively don't have any sense of trust in these institutions. And it tends to then perpetuate that, political cycle and things that we want to all break away from. But what it also reflects is a sign of the underlying politics that we have been accustomed to over the last 25 or 30 or so years. So I think, in effect, we are often treating the symptoms rather than the root cause of the issues, i.e., the institutions doing their work, but more importantly, the whole issue about, winner take all, competitive clientelism. And it's like, if I am in power, then all power and authority belongs to either myself by virtue of being a minister or by my party. And there's no consensus building across, like, the political divide. That is, for me, I think, the root cause of the issues that we must deal with. Other than that, we will still be treating the symptoms. And 4 years in, 4 years out, these, vigilante of...
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Theo Champong. And this is where we will end this topic. Before we go for our next break and return to deal with matters of the economy, Sami Gyamfi sends a message, and he says that, as I indicated at our Monday press briefing, an overwhelming majority of our security officers are men of integrity who are performing their duties professionally and ethically in the national interest. And we respect the sacrifices they are making for this country and are committed to equipping, supporting, and promoting them, as well as respecting their independence under a future NDC government. However, there is ample evidence to show that a few unscrupulous elements in some form in some of our respected security agencies who have lent themselves to the oppressive and lawless Akufo-Addo government as pliant agents of intimidation and violence against NDC supporters and other innocent civilians. I maintain that those few bad nuts are giving the respected institutions they belong to a bad name, hence not fit to wear the uniforms they are wearing. My message to them is simple. They are not above the law. and the law will soon catch up with them. Okay, you didn't really say law will catch up. You said they should get ready to move out. But thank you. I read a good portion of your message. Can't read all of that. When we return, we find out how Ken Ofori-Atta, the finance minister, is going to rescue an economy that has revenue the revenues expected to fall short by 13.6 million Ghana cedis of the budget target of 2020, and at the same time expenditure is to increase by 11.6 million. What are the implications of these? A government that did not plan to spend, as it were, 300,000 for COVID test kits, 100,000 contract tracers, extra allowance for frontline health workers, income tax exemption for health workers, free water, costing over 275 million for citizens, electricity costing over 1 billion Ghana cedis for over 50% of the population, 600 million support for small and medium scale enterprises, and 54 million in making dry food packages and hot meals to the people. These were not planned for. How do you take care of all of these and keep the economy afloat? What exactly is that ambitious Obatampa project, the Ghana Cares project? We'll be right back to deal with all of that.